And we are recording. Welcome to the Poundcast. Today, of course, on the Poundcast, Brent. Who's our sponsor this week?
Today's episode is brought to you by Louisville Vegan Jerky. They've got the best vegan jerky, not just in Louisville, but all over the world.
In the world.
And
LouisvilleVeganFoods.com is actually the website to go to. And you could get this most delicious jerky that I just ate on my trip through Utah and Colorado and Wyoming. And it's kind of like the perfect snack to bring along, Brent.
Very good, Doug. Very good. And, Louisville Vegan Jerky is hand-bagged in the United States of America. And if you're interested and you want to order some online, you can go to LouisvilleVeganFoods.com and you can use the code word Poundcast and you get, guess how much % off?
What is this, 5% or something?
Times 4, 20%. Okay.
20% off, folks, at LouisvilleVeganFoods.com. Use the code word Poundcast and get 20% off your entire order. And guess what? You don't have to go to the store, wear a mask. You can do it from the comfort of your own home.
What a beauty.
And it's a great product. And they have so many delicious flavors, Brent.
Oh, my good night.
Oh,
Shamalanga ding dong.
Gosh, they got teriyaki.
You got perfect pepperoni.
Buffalo dill.
Smoked black pepper.
Maple bacon, which is what I have right here on standby in case I need a snack. And I can keep it here on standby for 9 months because that's the shelf life.
But if you want to wear the mask, be my guest and go to Sprouts or wherever you want to go. Whole Foods.
It's a great product. It's a
be
cool
our guest.
Company. Be our guest. Be our guest. It's a cool company. It's a great product. Support the Poundcast. LouisvilleVeganFoods.com. You can't go wrong. And
now let's get on with the show.
That's about it. Let's get on with the show. And before we get to the interview with Crime Pays But Botany Doesn't, Joey, we're going to play a theme song remix, the Poundcast theme song remix. This is coming in from one of our Patreon subscribers. And you can also support us on Patreon by going to patreon.com/Poundcast. And for a very low subscription amount, you will get bonus material. You will get extended Poundcast interviews, and you will get access to the stems for the Poundcast theme song. And you can do a remix. This is a remix coming from Victor. Victor is a Patreon subscriber. Let's take a listen, Brent.
Welcome to the Poundcast. 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 Welcome to the Poundcast.
Well, that's a pretty cool remix, Brent. Some of the chords in there remind me of Aphex Twin, one of my favorite musicians, perhaps my favorite musician. So I give a big thumbs up to Victor. Victor, thank you for being a Patreon pimple, and thank you for this beautiful remix. All right, Brent.
Hey.
Should we get on with the show? Should we bring our guest on?
Yeah, let's bring our guest. One other thing I just want to mention, if you're interested, the Poundcast is now on YouTube. We have videos of the shows. It's youtube.com/thepoundcast. And man, just wait until this quarantine is over with. The videos are going to be going off, but they're still fun. It's still fun to check it out, even with this kind of setup. So anyway, check that out if you're interested. Let's get on with the show. Should I just bring him in?
Just bring him in, yeah.
All right.
Mute. You see the unmute on the bottom left, perhaps? There you go.
What? How do I do this? What? What? I've done like one Zoom meeting before. So I'm still learning.
Well, thanks for being on the Poundcast, man. I'm a big fan. I've been following you. Look, I even got your merch. I buy the merch. I support. Okay.
Thanks. Thank you. That's that design was all right. I fucked up the letters a little bit on that. I like your little Shel Silverstein poster in the background.
Yeah, it's a parody of Shell. It's a skateboard falling out of the giving tree. So my friend Todd
shit.
Bratrude made that. Anyway,
Nice.
so this is the first time we're ever talking in person. So just I don't know why I mentioned that, but
Fresh, dude. This is a fresh
this
start.
is fresh. I'm just saying. So Joey, I think you and I are cut from the same cloth a little bit. Are you from the suburbs of Chicago? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Which suburb are you from?
LaGrange.
LaGrange?
Huh?
Dude, I was born in LaGrange.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was there till I was like 12, then I got shipped off to some various institutions. And then I came back for like 2 years and was basically living in the city for the last 2 years, going to the school on the Northwest side. And then I left when I was like 17 to come out here to go to San Francisco. So
But how did you manage to keep that incredible accent?
I don't know. Probably my growing up with actually my dad was, I guess people tell me I kind of sound like my dad, but I don't know. I think I've been coming back to Chicago. I never really made it out. I came out here in 2000 and then was basically going back like a couple times a month since 2009 because I have a son over there. So, yeah, I mean, I still go back a lot,
So can I ask, what kind of institutions did you attend when you were 12?
I attended I got sent to a military school in Wisconsin.
Oh yeah.
And like the first year, I went there for 2 years. Like the first year I was there, no one who was there wanted to be there. There were like 2 kids who wanted to be there, but there were kids that got sent there by the courts. There were kids who just there was a bunch of Mexican, like kids with like rich Mexican parents. Their parents were probably fucking weird, like owners of Mexican companies or probably fucking cartel people too. I don't know. But there was like large population of kids from Mexico that went there. And so the first year, there was fucking everyone too. There were kids from the South Side that ended up there. I mean, it was a really weird place. And it was like these old, the school had been around for fucking 120 years. So it was these old buildings. And the first year I went there, I was kind of like, oh, I was like 13. I was like, oh, I guess I'll try to behave and go along with it. And then like the second year I was there, we just kind of declared war on everything. Like we had like this kind of like posse of 10 or 11 kids. And then I got kicked out. Like I got asked not to come back the last year. And then just got shuffled around to a couple different military themed like camps and fucking, all kinds of weird shit. And then finally just came back to live with my mom when I was like 16 or 17, I think. So then I spent
did you still act kind of militaristic with your mom a little bit? Did you tell your mom, hey mom, can you just whip me into shape a little bit? Just like, give me some drills.
Yeah, no, not really. My mom's a school teacher. She was a big softie. She's a sweetie. I think the only thing I learned there, I think rather than kind of going with it and doing the whole yes sir, no sir, it made me just kind of more inflamed, more of an anti-authoritarian stint and more of a penchant towards vandalism. And it was a couple years after military school that I got into things like graffiti and it kind of, I don't know, I just had this penchant for conflict, especially I've homed it in a little bit, but I think that was the thing to come up, because literally that was what it was like the second year there. I mean, I just saw fucked up shit. I just saw kids getting their asses beaten. That we had these people called tactical officers who were actually, they'd served time in the armed services, and then they got hired on as like you had one per floor in the barracks. So these like medieval looking buildings too, like all fucking old stone, and this shit was built a long time ago. And so, I just saw fucked up behavior on their part too. I mean, it was fucked up. It was like just like you see in the movies, I'm sure there was all kinds of fucking weird assault going on. You probably throw a pedophile in the mix. Maybe there was some of that too. I don't know. I never saw it firsthand, but I'd imagine so. And so, it just, it kind of, it had the opposite effect that you would think it would have. Instead of whipping you, it kind of like made you, kind of pointed some people probably more in the direction towards mischief or maybe crime. I don't know.
Okay, so for those who don't know, who aren't familiar with you, you run. I first saw you your YouTube channel, Crime Pays But Botany Doesn't, and I just thought it was so cool because you went. I think the first one I saw was in Illinois. You're all over the world. You're like worldwide. And I want to know how you get around, but first, just to let people know, you do a really interesting sort of nature show on YouTube and Instagram where you can look at you looked at this field that if I was passing it, I thought it would just be some shitty lot, but you've managed to find really the beauty in just the mundane, like to the layman, they would see just plants, right? Weeds, but you found like beauty in there. So how did you first get into like learning about plants basically?
Where it started, I mean, I think it started, I don't know, probably 2006 or 7. I've always been interested in science. I grew up, see what a bear's hat on. You probably know the Field Museum. I grew up going to the Field Museum a lot as a kid. I grew up passing by these, driving by these quarries on I-55, which is the southwest trending freeway in Chicago, in the metro.
I lived right off of I-55. Yeah.
Right. So we'd be passing by these fucking quarries, and my mom would be like, "That's because she's a school teacher. I just grew up with my single mom, and she'd be like, that's basically the bodies of old microscopic marine animals." And I just thought that was so fucking cool. I couldn't comprehend it. So I've always been into science, and then I think I was fucking off in my early 20s riding freight trains around. I basically lived that way for 3 years. I wouldn't stay anywhere longer than 2 months. And somewhere along the way, I picked up a used astronomy textbook, and I didn't end up pursuing astronomy at all. I just read like the first half of that textbook on a freight train in the middle of the fucking Sonoran desert. But the concepts I saw in those first couple chapters were really enlightening. And I guess the thing I took away from it was that I don't know shit about shit. That was the main. That was what I gained from reading that fucking book in the sweltering heat. And, I was heading west towards California. I picked this book up in Tucson at we had like walking. We used to go to the colleges to use their free internet. And I think I picked it up there. And so that just kind of, I read about like spectroscopy, which is one of the ways they apply that is, looking at another planet's atmosphere and trying to figure out what that atmosphere is composed of by the spectrum of light that's emitted by that planet, by the light reflecting through the atmosphere. So that whole concept just kind of blew my mind, and it just lit the fire of, I guess, both imagination and then curiosity. And so I went back to school for a year, and just for geology. I wasn't trying to go for any degree. My idea was I'm just going to do a little Pell Grant scam, just, live. I just didn't want to fucking work. I didn't want to work. I would hold odd jobs here and there at that point. I've been a bike messenger intermittently for 3 or 4 years, but that had a high turnover rate, and I never worked, for a single company more than 3 months. I just didn't want to work. I wanted to draw pictures and I wanted to learn. So I went to fucking City College in San Francisco. When I was done traveling for a year, took a couple courses in geology and oceanography and other shit. Again, no end goal of getting a degree. I didn't care about that. I just wanted to learn this stuff. I was sincerely interested in it. And then after a year doing that, I hired out with the railroad just on a whim. To my surprise, they actually hired me, and I stuck with that for 15 years. And I always said I would just do this till it sucked, and it didn't start really sucking until the last couple of years. And so once it started sucking more, the whole time I'm just got this union income, and I'm just using it to basically educate myself and shit. And, when I first fucking started working there. I bought the neighborhood I lived in was super cheap to buy a house, and so I bought a house there, and that
in Oakland.
yeah, that was set up. It's fucking, it's probably value of the thing's gone up a bunch now, but I'm never gonna sell a thing. I don't give a shit. I need a place to live. I get kind of annoyed when people are like, "Oh, dude, the value of your house went up." I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I need a place to live. What am I gonna do? Fucking steal it and like van life? Get the fuck out of here.
Same with me. I actually like I own this house, but it's gone up, and people say, "Oh, you should, sell it and get a bigger place." And I'm like, "No," so I could like have a bigger payment. Like, no thanks.
It's an American mindset getting to you, money. It's always about, So I was lucky in that end. I mean, anybody who I didn't have any credit. I had to build all the boring shit. I never took out credit cards, never really did that. But I met a guy who could hook me up with. He basically built like a credit, like a fake credit card. Anyway, I bought a fucking house, so that was a huge. The reason I mentioned that is because that was a huge. Rent is such a fucking, especially now, it's so expensive, and it's such a disabler. I think when it comes to doing any of this stuff, to learning, to traveling, to all this shit. So you nip that in the butt. I was able to do that. And so then I had a union income, and I wasn't paying rent. I was paying a mortgage, which is, far cheaper than rent on the same amount of space. So I was paying a mortgage, and I would just use the, whatever money I had left over to learn and travel. And then when I quit drinking 4 or 5 years ago, when I quit drinking, I had a shit ton more money to pursue this stuff. And that's basically what I did. I spent all my money on books and plants and traveling around. And I guess I just kind of became an autodidact in that sense, and just got obsessed. And I think another driver of the obsession of it was that I just I'll let you in a little secret. I'm kind of filled with hate. Just misanthropy, not specific hate, not like racist hate. That's nothing ugly. It's just general discontent and anger, I guess. And so I channeled that instead of, I guess that fueled more of a passion for learning about the beauty, and I just learned you can't look for the beauty in the human world. You kind of got to look for it somewhere else. You look for beauty in the human world, you're going to be looking there's morsels in there. There's morsels, there's gems, there's people that surprise you. But if you spend much time looking for beauty in the human world, you're not going to find much. So once I kind of got turned on to this other world, the quote real world as I call it, I found a shit ton of beauty there, and I just kept chasing it. And so that's why I can, I guess I can go to a fucking lot and be like, look at all this and this and this and this, and how does this interact with this, and what's the fucking soil like, and how, what's the soil derived from? It's like a limestone based topsoil, and that causes these kinds of plants to grow there. And the more I learned, just the more fascinated I became. And I was like, I got to show people this shit. It's so cool, and the world's so fucking depressing and bleak. And it's like, this could really, maybe it could help some people. And also I just love, I could talk about plants for fucking hours, man. it's really, you'd be looking for a way to get me to shut the fuck up after 30 minutes.
Well, clearly, I've seen your videos. You can talk for a while about plants, but that's amazing because I don't know shit about plants. So for someone like me who is curious, I try to go camping and get out of the city as much as possible, but I don't know shit I know some things about reptiles and maybe some birds here and there, but I don't know anything about trees, plants. And when I see how much knowledge you have, it feels like insurmountable. So where can a novice like myself, where can we start? Do you have any
that's the thing. That's the beauty of the fucking. I remember when the internet first came out, because when I was riding freight trains and all that shit, we shunned. We looked down on people who had cell phones. We were like, some fucking male bravado. Oh, you got a cell phone. This is like flip phones too. We had no idea smartphones were coming. We were like, you travel with a cell phone, like a fucking, like what would be a burner phone now? And when we would look on flip phones, like, yeah, that guy's a fucking yuppie. He's got a flip phone, But once it came out, once like the smartphone thing came out, really, you got the fucking library. You got the totality of human knowledge in your fucking pocket, which is why it's funny. And I catch myself doing this shit all the time. you know, people looking at like pictures of food or pictures of asses or like, you know, with some, just change. But instead of doing that, you could you could download the Wikipedia app, read about all kinds of wacky shit that you had no idea about. You can. The first thing I would tell people, because people hit me up with these questions, they say, should I get a field guide? What's a good book? And it's like, it's not. It doesn't work like that. You don't just pick up a book and just fucking insert it into your head and just start getting all this. You got to go outside. You got to explore. You got to look. You got to, most importantly, you got to ask questions, you know? And so when you ask questions, you're going to, if you're, you know, industrious at least, or somewhat industrious, you're going to find ways to answer them. Ask your smartphone, find apps, you know, look up resources, go to Google Scholar. You even need to do that with, you know, if you want to learn plants or you want to learn mushrooms or any of that shit, go just download the app iNaturalist. That's like the first, iNaturalist and Wikipedia. Those two things, I mean, once you learn how to use them, and they can be kind of a pain in the ass, once you learn how to use them, it opens up a whole fucking world for you. And, you know, they're not perfect. I mean, Wikipedia, anyone can write shit on Wikipedia. Some fucking putz can come up with wacky shit and just start writing in shit on Wikipedia, but also there are people who proofread it, and it will get checked, you know, and updated. They'll force them to cite their sources, etc. So, but people don't really, but not so much with plants. No one's going in there to fucking make up nonsense about plants. Wikipedia is good, and then iNaturalist is just, you know, the Explore feature. I just did a video on it yesterday. I mean, you can pick up the app iNat, go to hit the Explore tab, and in the field you write like sunflower family, and then it says location. Put in Crook County, you know, Illinois, and look, you'll get all a list of everything that's been observed in the sunflower family in Cook County, and they're thumbnails. You can look for them. That's a fucking field guide right there. You know, the same thing. You want to look up the Gentian family, look that up. You want to look up the pea family, look that up. I can download iNaturalist and look up pea family, Western Australia, and I'll get a list of every fucking species in the pea family that's been seen in Western Australia, or so far, you know, in the app's history. It's fucking incredible. I mean, I can look up shit that I had no idea about. Beyond that, going to a good botanic garden is important. Some of those places can be really annoying. There's like, you got like the housewife crowd that just hangs out there. They got nothing better to do. They're on their husband's dime. They got fucking time to kill. They're going to go, I'm going to go fuck with flowers. You know, they're not really educated botanists. That's good they have an outlet. That's good that Susan has an outlet. But, you know, I just say that because every botanic garden is different. I'm lucky enough I live near UC Berkeley, so it's basically a solely academic, scientific botanic garden. It's like a living museum of plants. But, you know, you go to like, God, Chicago Botanic Garden. I got the cops called on me there once because I was pissing in a bush. And
is that part of the pea family?
Story. What?
Is it part of the pea family?
Yeah, right. You want to hear this story? It's
Yes,
a good one.
yes.
It was when my kid was just born, and I was with his mom, who's like this. She's like kind of a new age Nazi. Like we made the mistake of getting married. Needless to say, it didn't last that long. But she was breastfeeding him. We went to the botanic garden for like a nice little outing, and she was breastfeeding him, and I had to piss. I had to piss so bad. I drink like 6 cups of coffee a day, so I went to piss in this bush. It was like up against a tree, but like in the distance there was a little trailer. They had like little modular housing. You know, like schools do it when they get too many kids and the school is outdated and small and they need another classroom. So it was like one of those, but the windows were tinted. I couldn't see in. I didn't think anyone was actually in that building. And so I'm pissing, and it was a long piss too. And I guess these ladies were like looking out, like the same like Susan Karen housewife. So I was basically flashing my dong to these women for like 45 minutes. Fucking had no idea. I mean, they shouldn't have looked, you know, whatever. It was obvious what I was doing. So they called the security guard. This guy comes out who looks like fucking, I don't even know how to describe this dude. You know, he's like 100 pounds overweight with like those big like glasses and like just a weird looking fucking, you could tell he was really into his job because he had maybe not much else going. And he rolls up and he's like, we're calling the police, sir. You just exposed yourself to these women.
Oh,
and
my God.
Like, oh shit, there were people in there. I basically did just explode. Anyway, it was funny. So we had to like, you know, I was like, baby, get in the car. Let's get the fuck out of here. We'd like to drive out, go the wrong way down one of their one-way lanes, you know, and it was hilarious. But bring up Botanic Garden, because if you go to Chicago Botanic Garden, there's a little bit of like sciencey stuff there, but most of it is that. It's like these finely manicured beds with the lawn and the fucking 100 of the same plant that looks like it came out of the Home Depot garden section planted there. You know what I mean? Where it's just, so I'm just saying you got to go to a good botanic garden. But I mean, anywhere is good. You know, you see some shit you like, you get excited. I want to learn more about that. Find out what it is. The botanic gardens, most of them have a label. You can find out what family it's in. Remember the genus, right? The genus and the species name down. You get amped on it. You know, same thing. Like I don't know much about snakes, but I've seen enough rattlesnakes being out. You know, and I saw this species called the speckled rattlesnake, which I had no idea what it was when I first saw it 5 years ago. They're all over the Mojave. They're these beautiful fucking rattlesnakes. They're super docile. Sometimes they're a little too docile, like to the point where you could almost step on them and get bit, which is what I did. I looked like basically directly beneath my groin. I was high on mushrooms at the time. Walking through this we were in the middle of nowhere too, really beautiful area. And this thing, like the ground moved beneath me, and it was this perfectly camouflaged in with this purple volcanic rock. It was a purple speckled rattlesnake. I don't know why the fucking thing didn't bite me. I'm really glad it didn't. It must have been chilly or something. It had just rained the night before. Desert smells amazing after rain. So this thing moves out from under me stepping on it, and I screamed like a little bitch because I was like, this is a fucking highly venomous snake. My next 2 weeks are going to be ruined if I get bit by this thing. I'm probably not going to die, but I'm going to be in a lot of pain. I'm going to be, you know, out of action for a while. The thing didn't bite me. It just like gently moved away. And, you know, anyway, I saw one of those. The first time I saw it was somewhere in the Chuckwalla Mountains in Southern California. And I just was like, that's a beautiful fucking snake. It's obviously a rattlesnake. It's got the rattle. What is it? I put it on INAT. Someone identified it as whatever species of crotalus it is. I think it's Mitchellii. And so then I just started learning more about him. And then I saw him again and again and again. And, you know, now it's at the point where I see one, I can identify it, and I'm stoked to see it. And I know all about them, and I pay attention to them, and I see how they react to me. And it's just, you know, the same thing with anything. You know, you get excited about something. And I think it was the ugliness of the world around me that eventually got me more excited about this shit. It was an outlet, totally an outlet.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brent.
What do you exactly do you find beautiful about nature? I mean, why is it beautiful to you?
Well, learning about evolution and ecology. First off, everything's connected. All the shit, all these, you know, all the hippies and the New Agers say is true. I mean, they're out of their minds. Everything they say is true. Everything's connected is right. They're right on that end. It is. Everything's connected. Second, all these organisms are connected. They connect us to deep time in a way, and they connect us to our own origins. They evolve over vast amounts of time. These lineages have been around for fucking millions, hundreds of millions of years. You know, you see I don't know how anyone can fucking debate evolution. You catch a running theme when you pay attention to this shit long enough. You see slight variations in the same general model, you know, and obviously there's a divergence there. They were probably related at one point. If you go far back enough, they're obviously related now. They were probably the same organism at one point. Well, that's still an oversimplification. They shared a common ancestor, but so there's slight variations, and those slight variations are based on both their evolutionary history, what they've been through, what those lineages have been through, and also what their immediate environment is. And so to me, that's just fascinating because it's kind of, I mean, it's chance. You know, I don't believe in any kind of intelligent design. It doesn't work like that. That's still just such an anthropocentric way to think about things. But I just get amped seeing the endless forms most beautiful, as Darwin put it, these slight variations on a general theme and just how life responds, you know. And for me, you know, a very, I guess, philosophically angry person, that kind of I guess it soothes me in a way, you know. And I think, I don't know, I guess it's the same thing. You know, some people learn how insignificant they are when they get into science, and it freaks them out. Me, I learn how insignificant I am, and I get fucking amped because I'm like, I'm just gonna turn back into the dust one day. It doesn't, you know, this shit doesn't matter. The fucking people pissing me off, all the other shit, it doesn't really matter. And I guess there's a beauty, there's like a soothing beauty in that. So it's that, and then it's just, yeah, I mean, it's just beautiful. I mean, it's, you know, you look at you look at human things under a microscope, they're all fucking, you know, jaggedy and imperfect and crusty. And you could say there's a beauty in that sometimes too. But when you look at things, you know, made by nature under a microscope, they're fucking perfect. I mean, everything is fucking the curves, the morphology, it's like, you know, just beautiful architecture. Again, not intentional. It's just the way it kind of happens. And I guess for me, that's just, you know, man, you send me to a natural history museum, I'll lurk in there, especially if you got some edibles. I'll lurk in there for fucking hours, man. I mean, that's like my biggest bummer about the COVID pandemic. I mean, the old folks dying sucks, no doubt. But like the museums being shut down, that's where I'm like, oh, you know, right to the chest. Yeah, I don't know.
Can I ask about like when you worked for the train? You don't work for the train anymore?
It's complicated. I do. I'm out on a medical leave because I had shoulder surgery in December, and so it's been recuperating. I couldn't do the physical therapy because COVID struck basically right in the middle of it. So yeah, I've been out on medical leave, and it's just kind of it's extending.
Well, I'm just curious, like what did you, were you an engineer? Were you like driving the train?
Yeah, the last couple of years I was an engineer, and that was, you know, I kind of fucked up with that. I shouldn't have. I hired out as a brakeman conductor, and that was a fucking blast. I mean, that was.
What's that?
It sounds like.
Choo choo.
You're working on the ground. You're riding boxcar ladders on the sides of boxcars. You're giving hand signs to the engineer. You're pulling pins. You're uncoupling rail cars. You're throwing switches. It was fucking great. You know, it's like a dog with the wind in your face. You know, a dog sticking his head out the window with a wind in his face, you know, window of a car. But and you're only in the locomotive cab for like, you know, a quarter of your time at work, if that. Because I was working yard jobs and locals. But in 2011 or 2012, I got my locomotive license, and I got it thinking they're going to try to shit can us all anyway. The railroad's consistently trying to downsize. They want to do one-man crews. This is just job protection. But looking back on it, I shouldn't have done it. I mean, it was a horrible idea because I'm not the type of person that can sit still staring out the window for hours on end, which is what being an engineer is. And it's just sitting still anyway. I think sitting down is really bad for your health. And so, you know, you'd see these guys become engineers, and they just, you know, blowed up and just fucking we had this joke about the railroad. Like every time you don't see someone for 6 months, like an old friend that you work with, because they work in a different terminal. Say they work in Roseville, I work in Oakland. You don't see them for 6 months, and then, yeah, every time you see them, they look subsequently worse. You know, just like more red-faced, more alcoholic, more just fucking, you know, got another chin. So when I became an engineer, I got it thinking I wouldn't be forced to use it because their seniority was so high. I wouldn't be forced to be an engineer, work in that profession for years. And when that time finally came, like 5 years ago, that's when I was like, this isn't, you know, I don't think this is going to last. And the company just sucks too. The company's just doing what GM did in the 80s, which is just cutting as many jobs as possible and then piling the existing work on what jobs remain. So it's longer hours, less pay. The fucking health insurance gets worse every year. They're consistently cutting benefits. You know, a nice corporate American business plan.
So what do you do when you're you're driving the train, right? You're in the front locomotive. Are you by yourself?
And also, do you wear overalls, and do you wear one of those hats?
Yeah. Do you wear the hat?
Do you wear one of those chef hats, you know?
Yeah, we wear overalls and we're smoking meth up there. Just fucking woo! No, you're just sitting up there with a fucking conductor. There's two different types of jobs. You can do road pools or you can do yard jobs. Yard jobs, you go home every night. It's real easy. You do an 8-hour, 10-hour shift.
What do you do in a yard job?
You start in a yard, you build trains by, you know, back and forth consistently.
You connect them all together. Right.
Basically a bunch of back and forth, because you can't pick a boxcar up and just put it on another track. You got to pull it up over a switch and then shove it back. So, and then when you're on the road, that's just get on and go. And that's what most people probably think is fun, but it's not. It sucks after a while. You just basically get on The old crew gets off because a train's taken from point A to B to C with stops in between, crew changes in between. Crews don't go longer than 300 miles at most, and often not even half that. So, we would, when I was working road pools, I was working like Roseville to Sparks. I was working Sparks, Nevada. I was working Roseville to Bakersfield. You get on and then you just sit there for fucking 10, 12 hours. And sometimes you'll end up, because the most railroads are single tracked or doubled, or there's just more traffic than they can handle. So you'll need to stop at sidings to let another train pass. When you go into that siding, sometimes you'll sit there for 3 or 4 hours. It just depends. And that's what really got me. And then now they got cameras. They got inward facing cameras facing, looking at you while you work. So you basically have someone staring over your shoulder the whole fucking time. It's once they brought the inward facing cameras, then it was another level. We used to listen to music. We used to have all kinds of fun, talking shit, fucking right. When they brought the inward facing cameras, then the party was over.
Oh, that sucks, man. So what? Yeah, that sounds awful to be like. I mean, me and Brent, we have to be in camera when we're at work. We got the cameras here, but what were you hauling with your train? Like what was it?
Everything. If only you knew it was going through your backyard at night. Everything from ammonia, which is like a fucking, that thing. Those tankers crack open. Everyone dies. There's no. I mean, that's like a fucking bomb. They're a lot more regulated now post 9/11 than they used to be. But you'd get this anhydrous ammonia, which was you get one of those on a train, and your train has to go through a whole other level of regulations and steps, and there's all these other rules that apply. Everything from anhydrous ammonia to fucking frozen chicken legs to that was something actually they used in Oakland. People used to crack into those refrigerated boxcars just to steal chicken. It was funny. And so they go in the yard and they'd steal these boxcars full of chicken, but they'd drop a couple on their way out because the things are heavy and they're, whatever, hopping over train tracks. And so every once in a while in the yard, we'd find like a box of frozen chicken that some crackhead dropped on his way out of the yard. And it just fucking smelled, just been sitting there in the sun for 20 days, just really nice smell to it. But everything from frozen chicken, industrial, chemicals, plastic pellets, a lot of grain. They do a lot of grain for, where they got the cow farms down in Coalinga and stuff, with chicken farms and shit.
Harris Ranch.
What's that?
Oh, yeah, Cowschwitz is in near Harris Ranch.
Yeah,
Harris Ranch.
Okay, you gotta like hold your nose for 3 or 4 miles.
Yeah, like those. It seems like every freeway has the Cowschwitz on it somewhere.
Oh yeah, but I gotta have your In-N-Out, dude. Love In-N-Out, dude. It's amazing, dude. Tastes so good, dude. So I don't know, all kinds of crazy shit. I don't know. I mean, trying to think of like the craziest shit. Oh, we'd haul beer sometimes. Cans full of beer. You'd see that on the manifest. Canned tomatoes, canned fruit. I mean,
well, the question is now, have you ever encountered anything crazy on one of your rides, like a woman tied up perhaps with rope or
a man with like a long mustache,
Yeah, I was gonna say a little mustache and a top hat and shit, and he's like, no, just God damn, I wish I would have written some of these stories down. I've seen some funny shit. I've seen some wild shit. Seen some beautiful shit. Remember rolling into Reno, seeing like 3 or 4 bald eagles like wading in the Truckee River because it's a shallow river. Being in Oakland, you'd see bummies lighting their camps on fire a lot. You'd see some enormous garbage piles, quite impressive. I'm trying to think other. God, I got a fucking handful. I got so many good stories. I just can't think of them offhand.
Okay, well, let me ask you this: have you ever seen anyone riding like we one time on the show? I had some guys that rode rails. They would. What would you call that? They train hop. They're kind of like crusty punkers that would just ride across the country.
That's what he did too. It seems like, right?
Did you do that too?
Yeah, I did that for 3 years, but I didn't have the costume of like black studded vest, and I mean,
no, I'm not saying they had the costume. I'm just saying.
No, but that's you bring up a valid point though. I mean, that's, you got a couple different kinds of people that ride trains. You got like your migrants, like Latin American migrants and Guatemalans and Mexicans. Actually rode freight trains in Mexico for a few months in 2005. That was a real eye opener, quite different from the States. So you got your like Latin American migrants. You got your old, these guys are mostly dead, but like old Vietnam vet, drunkard, fucking hello brother with the big beard, Some of those guys were really.
You froze up for a sec. Can you? Okay, you're back.
Yeah. I was saying, you'd see everything from Latin American migrants, like some old white dudes with beards and looking like Hell's Angels, and then you get the contingent of like young punk kids with the fucking hobo costume and the black vest, and they all dress, they got their own little conformity costume on, but they're obviously choosing that lifestyle, whereas the Latin migrants and the old bastards are kind of the old bastards probably chose that too, but there's no going back for them anymore at this point. But I'd see people. I found some old guy in a locomotive once going to Elko. Went back to take a shit because you don't take a shit in the first engine. You take a shit in the second or third engine. So I went back to use the second or third engine's bathroom and opened the door, and there's a dude in there, like a 45-year-old black dude. He's like, I won't touch anything. He like knew the thing. That's the same thing we used to tell the engineers we were riding. So I was like, don't worry, it's fine. I got to take a shit. Can you go to the third engine? He's like, oh yeah, sure. So we went back there, and we never saw him again. He just, he didn't fuck with anything. He was, whatever. And then I remember just seeing, you'd see like, just Guatemalans and stuff, but they were more when I was actually riding, and I would meet those guys, like 2003, 2004, and they were always just, strictly business, point A to point B. I got to get there to go work and whatever.
Did you ever, so because you rode yourself at one point, when you see people hitching rides like that, you kind of let them be. You kind of just say, oh, it's fine. You can ride along if you want. Or, and then are there other people who aren't so lenient and kick them off the train?
Well, the old, you talk to the old heads and they're mostly all dead or retired. They're all gone, basically. And I just mean old guys that worked for Southern Pacific before Union Pacific bought them out. And they were, their general policy was, I don't fuck with them. It was kind of cool. They were kind of anti-authoritarian. They knew the company was kind of fucking them, out to fuck them, didn't care about them. They were expendable as employees. And so they unless someone's being a fucking derelict, they're totally fucked up or drunk, they would just let these guys ride. If they're on a boxcar or something, I didn't see it. But when they're in the engine, it's a little different. Sometimes it's like, because you don't know. People are fucking dumb, and I don't want someone fucking with the circuitry, trying to charge their cell phone. They shut off the fucking engine, or it's just stupid shit. But generally, it was if they're not bothering anybody, don't bother them. They're just getting a ride. I don't give a shit, And that was what most people's policy was. But you get a lot of guys, younger guys that just hired out or were new to the railroad that didn't get the culture, and their whole thing was, we got a trespasser, I got to call him in, blah blah. Just snitch culture, just Karen culture, basically.
Would you ever want to get away from the railroad life and just do your videos, or for a job?
I think I'm done. I think I'm done with the railroad. When I hired out, it was fun and I liked it, and the pay was good. The pay gets worse every year. The benefits get worse every year, just like most things. The system's not set up to benefit the little guy. And then the company just fucking sucks. It's just the harassment is really bad. The employee harassment they've got, they were used to have these managers, they would call it testing, but it wasn't testing. The manager would just go out and spy on you, and they would actually fucking hide in the bushes and watch you work and try to catch you doing something wrong or breaking any of their 9,000 frivolous rules. And they had a rule on how to walk. It got really, this company, it's not all railroads, it's this fucking company.
How do you walk?
Yeah, what's the rule on walking?
This is fucking hilarious. Their policy was to, quote, walk like a duck. These motherfuckers wrote a rule that said walk like a duck with your feet out. You know, just stupid shit, just like micromanaging safety culture, just insane fucking.
What's the purpose of walking like a duck?
What?
What is the purpose of that?
Purpose of walking like a duck.
Avoid, the purpose is you avoid slips, trips, and falls. You know, you're not going to fall. And if you do fall, this is what the purpose of many of these rules were too. If you do fall, well, it's obviously because you weren't following the rule. It was your fault, so we can blame you. So we're not liable. So if you try to come sue us for fucking injury on the job, we can say we have rules dictating how you walk. If you fell, you obviously weren't walking the right way. You weren't walking like a duck with your feet out and looking in front of you. So fuck you. We're not liable. And we're going to try to fire you now because you got hurt on the job. And that's the way that the railroad works now. That's a whole fucking, they all do that. Some more than others. Norfolk Southern, BNSF, UP, they all do that shit now. That's the way that they avoid liability. And that's the way they fuck you and they get rid of people who get hurt on the job because those people are a liability. So it's just, you know, it's basically the bottom line. And it's just, that's shit like that is what I just can't take. I mean, I'm a fucking grown man. I don't need to watch a video on how to use a fire extinguisher or how to walk or how they have another thing on how to get down off a locomotive using 4-point contact and looking both ways with it 180 degrees to avoid, you know, getting clobbered by an oncoming train. I mean, just this whole shit they've been pushing the last 20 years, as far as I know, is that if you get fault, if you get hurt, it's your fault, and we're gonna try to fire you for it. So, you know, it's gotten worse. It gets worse every year. It gets more of that shit every year. More of these fucking pencil necks in Omaha figuring out ways to fuck their employees and, you know, minimize whatever. So it's just, I've all the talent, like skilled switchmen, skilled engineers that I see who aren't morons, I see them all jumping ships. So they say, fuck this job. This company sucks. I'm going to do something else. I'm miserable. And you're just on call all the time. You fucking go to work at 3 a.m. one day and then 3 p.m. the next. And it's just, so people are just jumping ship. And so that all you're left with is people that are just kind of stuck there. You know, they got a mortgage they can't afford. They got 4 fucking kids. They bought all these redneck toys they don't need that they're still paying off the loans for. You know, it's just, they're stuck and they're fucking miserable. And those are the people that are moving these, you know, huge trains of goods across the country and probably, you know, hitting a bottle after work. The fucking, it's just got to become a really bleak place. So yeah.
So one more train question, and then we'll get back to plants. So when you were driving the train and you go to point A to point B, so what would be a typical like LA to Vegas or something? Is that like one stretch? Like how far?
It could be, no, I think it's LA to Colton.
Oh,
LA,
so it's not even that far.
No.
And then do you stay in Colton like you're like a airline? You gotta stay there.
They put you up in a nice accommodation so you can get your 12 hours rest. We'll put you in a fucking, you know, nice corporate hotel that smells like carpet cleaner, and you know, get the lady at the front's got a shit-eating grin on it, and you know, it's located in like a parking lot in a strip mall somewhere. Oh yeah, totally. That's what. And you sit there for 10 or 12 hours, sometimes longer, until you get called. So you'll be, if you're working the road, you're actually gone from home for sometimes 36, 40 hours, sometimes 48 hours. You know, it's fucking brutal. It's not really worth it. Just what's not worth anymore, you know?
Okay. So, back to plants.
Well, yeah. Okay.
You had a train, one more train question?
No, it's not about trains, but it's going back to plants is there, since you don't want to do trains anymore, is there a job you can get, you think, in that deals more with plants and nature and stuff?
I'm gonna take you guys with me to piss. Yeah, I'm sure there is, but you know, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of enjoying what I'm doing now, which is just I'm gonna actually just do this. My stand up, you know, there's probably jobs you can do that do that, but I just piss in the shower. You know, it works. You just wash it down afterwards.
It goes to the same place.
Yeah, it's just a nice drain. We got a gray water system. Just kidding. But I mean, I'm enjoying doing these YouTube videos, and it's working for. I mean, mostly, you know, I'm not making what I was with the railroad, but I'm comfortable. I got a Patreon, which is helpful. I got, I've been selling shirts, selling art and shit. Got back into drawing. I took like a year off of drawing. So, you just like anything. You just find a hustle. You do what you can. But I mean, overall, my quality of life is much better now than when I was, sitting in a locomotive cab, breathing in electrical fires and listening to dudes talk about their cars for 10 hours a day. So,
Yeah, I hear that. I totally like am down with the philosophy of getting less money to have more free time to enjoy your life more. I mean, that's what I've been doing the last few years, and super into that philosophy. But if we can get back to plants here, what would be, do you have a plant out there or an animal that's on your like bucket list that's like the ultimate like thing to spot in the wild?
Yeah. I was, I mean, the last couple of trips I've done out of the country, I mean, all of them have been funded by a lady in the UK who really liked what I was doing. And I don't know where her money came from, but she would just be like, hey, I want to send you to Chile. What do you think? And I'd be like, yeah, all right, sure, I'll go.
That's amazing.
So, pre-pandemic, yeah, I know, I was really lucky on that end. And I gotta fucking find ways to repay her somehow. I mean, she says don't worry about it, but I should send her a drawing or something. But anyway, so pre-COVID, I had plans to go to South Africa. I had plans to go to all these places. All that shit's on hold now, obviously, especially since our fucking country's a redheaded stepchild on the world stage. Now, no one's gonna let our nasty asses in since we can't contain our fucking pandemic. So, I wanted to go, a big bucket list plant for me is a plant called Welwitschia mirabilis, which is the weirdest fucking looking thing you'll probably ever see. I mean, aside from some of the parasitic plants. Welwitschia is not parasitic, I'm just saying.
Can you spell it so the listeners can like look it up?
Yeah, it's WELWITSCHIA mirabilis. MIARABILIS. I think that's right. Yeah. So, and it grows in these fog deserts in Namibia, and I fucking love deserts. I'd take a desert over a forest any day of the week, undoubtedly.
Now, before you finish, why would you choose a desert over a forest? Because I like both, but I kind of like prefer forests.
The plant diversity for the things I love looking at is going to be way greater in the desert in an open exposed area. Forests are shady. The trees, I mean, I like trees, but to look at their flower structure, to really get up close and personal with them, you got to get 40 fucking feet up in the canopy, meanwhile, the understory's relatively shady and there's not much going on. An exception would be like Mexican cloud forests. There's diversity there. There's openings in the canopy. Where there's openings, there's going to be a lot of cool shit going on. I think of like the Aves religiosa forest in Michoacan, Mexico, where the monarchs go every winter. That's a fucking incredible forest. I love it. The fungal diversity is incredible. There's all kinds of crazy shit coming up from the ground. The plant diversity is incredible. But there's openings in the forest. And again, it never freezes there. You've got these fir trees, which are true firs. I mean, quote, Christmas trees, but they grow in an area where it doesn't ever freeze. It's high altitude, subtropical. That's a forest I would like. But most like the redwood forest, I'm like, I spend an hour or two there, but I don't really. The deserts are where you see plants that are highly adapted. They've been through this filter of evolution that's produced a plant that's got all these characteristics, all these morphological traits that are fucking totally adapted to a place where it gets 105 degrees and doesn't rain for 95% of the year. And that's where you see some of the really cool feats of evolution, Welwitschia being one of them. So this grows in Namibia, which is on the west coast of southern African continent, just above South Africa. And all of this plant's precipitation comes in the form of fog. It's a Namibian desert. It's a fog desert. It doesn't rain. We get fog deserts in Baja California on the North American continent. You get fog deserts, especially in Chile, and you get a lot of fucking weird plants there. Like Chile's, like some of those plants in northern Chile all their precipitation comes from fog. It just doesn't rain there. It doesn't rain there at all because you got the Andes to the east blocking the storms off the Atlantic, and then you got these cold ocean currents coming up from the south that create basically a temperature inversion, persistent high pressure system. So all their precipitation comes from the fog. So Namibia is a fog desert that I have not been to, but I would love to go, and I would love to. Some fucking crazy shit, I mean, that's where Namibia is also where you get Namibia and South Africa are also where you get those living rock succulents, the lithops. They're in the ice plant family. Lithops is spelled Lithops.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just otherworldly shit. It looks fucking. It's like going to Mars, if Mars had life.
What's the shittiest plant?
Oh fuck. Probably something you'd see in the fucking Home Depot parking lot. There's a lot of them. Just close to me. I fucking hate roses lately. I do. There's a garden. It's not even a garden. It was, we used to have this double-decker freeway near my house that collapsed in the Loma Prieta earthquake. And when they finally, I can't imagine what that must have been. Like, can you imagine building a fucking double-decker freeway through a neighborhood? What a bleak fucking. Anyway, so once that fell and 40 people died, pancaked in this double-decker freeway structure. Once that fell, they turned this whole boulevard strip into like they spent like $11 million or some crazy amount. That would have fucked up for free.
Oh, you broke up again. Hold on a second. Hold up. Okay. You're back. Sorry, it just froze for a sec. But speaking of that, I just watched yesterday your video about illegal, I think you call it like illegal tree planting or something. In that you were putting them in that zone where the bridge fell.
Yeah, same area. That's the same spot.
So they put in some shit. You think that the city dropped the ball and they put in the wrong kind of plants that aren't gonna like survive well, and most of them were dead. A lot of them were dead that you found that they planted.
Yeah. That's the thing. A lot of those plants died. So basically, everything they planted there looks like it came out of the Home Depot garden section. I call them horticultural atrocities. There's just mass-produced. Not adapted to the climate here, where we get dry summers and mild, wet winters. So half this shit died. They got like 9,000 rose bushes. They planted like just boom, 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 just hundreds of rose bushes. So I've been ripping those out and kind of filling in my own stuff, mulching the area, weeding, and it's entirely selfish. I just ran out of space in my own garden to do this. So anyway, yeah, no, I don't know. There's so many plants I don't like. Mullen's another one I don't like. The hippies love it because they think if you smoke it, it's gonna fucking soothe your hemorrhoids or something. But
what's it called?
It's called mullein. Mullein, Mullein. It's a non-native invasive plant from Europe that you see it in clear cuts in the Pacific Northwest a lot. You see that in another plant called Scotch broom in the Pacific Northwest a lot. Scotch broom's another bad one. Just really just takes over, forms a monoculture, makes it impossible for anything else to grow. And there's just, I'm sure it's great in its native ecology, but here it's a fucking pain in the ass. So I don't know. Yeah, it basically would be that. What would be my most quote hated plant? Probably an invasive plant that's out of ecological context here. And some of our native plants are ecological on other continents. Or some horticultural atrocity that someone planted in a fucking gas station parking lot or something.
All right. How about,
go ahead, Brent. Go ahead.
I got two questions. One, do you watch a lot of fictional plant-related movies? And if so, have you ever seen a movie called The Freak Maker, otherwise known as The Mutations? And
no, is it like dystopic sci-fi? Is it like a dystopic sci-fi movie?
It's like a kind of a science. Well, I don't know. It's just more of a horror movie, I guess. But it's a guy who it's a college professor guy who takes he kidnaps his students and does experiments on them and fuses them with plants, and they kind of become like half plant, half. I don't know. Are you into that kind of thing? And then the other question is, well, I'll ask that after you answer this.
I mean, I love dystopic sci-fi and horror movies, especially.
But I mean, specifically because it's plant related, though. You like plant? Like, are you into just plant stuff?
I don't know. I mean, if I saw it, I would maybe. If I saw, I think the problem with movies like that, if I see it, I'd probably be, pointing out throughout the whole thing, that's not possible. That's not, blah blah. Yeah, I'd probably be like one of those obnoxious, holding it up to the science type of viewers.
And also, why did you want to go to California? Like, why going west? What brought you here?
Well, that actually has got nothing to do with it. I came here mostly for the cities. I was really into living in cities and just the idea of the cities and like public space and graffiti and all this shit. I was like 15 or 16 when I first came out here, and I came to San Francisco in 1998 before the big tech invasion, and the shit I saw blew my mind. I mean, I saw rampant homelessness and street people, but no one really fucked with them, and they weren't, in Chicago, the cops would always round that shit up, and it was still there, but it was hidden, and they were more like persecuted and thrown under the rug. And that, seeing just the kind of the lax nature of San Francisco and how they dealt with it, which I'm sure some people fucking hate, but to me, I was kind of impressed with it. I was like, this is cool. They don't, because they're going to be there anyway, but instead of sweeping them under the rug and clubbing them over the head, they'll just let them kind of be with minor shuffling them around, whatever the fuck. So that, and then just, I remember walking south of Market Street back then and just seeing, I mean, came from Chicago where like all the graffiti and all the street art was all like this yo, like hip hop. And it was especially nice when you saw the white kids trying to be like all yo. But when I came to San Francisco, there was like, the culture there was just more diverse. It was people from hip hop backgrounds, punk rock backgrounds, whatever the fuck, just people just all kind of had this anti-authoritarian slant and this slant for freedom and creativity and art. And that blew my mind. It just seemed so much more culturally rich in San Francisco. And back then in like late 90s, that was like the peak. I mean, there was like graffiti, really good graffiti everywhere. And it wasn't just typical like letters and shit. There was a lady who used to paint these perfect renditions of horses. So you'd be like in this filthy fucking alley with rats and human shit. And there'd be like a life-size black and white, perfectly toned, perfectly drawn, almost photographic horse, white, filled in white with black outline. And it was weird to me. I just didn't know what to make of it. And I saw a lot of shit like that. Just a lot of people making stuff and a lot of creativity, a lot of imagination. The fucking city was like a playground, and it was really fun to be around for that, to see it. And so that's why I came in. So now, now this stage of my life, I could give a fuck about cities. I don't really care about them as much, but I'm only in cities because rural areas seem a little bit more bleak culturally.
Okay. I got another plant question. As a homeowner, I got this place like 10 years ago. And I put in hedges and I put in plants and trees that I didn't realize I didn't understand the importance of planting native stuff. So I have like a eucalyptus tree and, some other stuff. I don't even know what they are, but
where you in LA or what?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
So the question is, how important is it to like plant native trees? Like, what if you don't plant native trees? What's the problem there?
I mean, I got a bunch of non-native shit, mostly from Central America, like cloud forest stuff, mostly because I get hummingbirds and I love, giving those little fuckers a spot to do their thing, So I plant, all kinds of salvias and weird members of the nightshade family that get big and tall and produce really colorful, large flowers that the hummingbirds like. I mean, non-native doesn't matter. There's a big difference between non-native and invasive, and basically a lot of the hippies and permaculture people will be like, invasive doesn't matter. You're being xenophobic or whatever stupid shit. But it's not about that. It's not about some human idea of purity. It's about the fact that plants evolve in ecosystems, and they'll take millions of years evolving in those ecosystems, reaching a state of equilibrium, basically equilibrium with all the other plants that live there, so that no plant gets too far out of balance, doesn't form a monoculture. No plant takes over too much. They're all in stable competition. But when you take one of those plants or animals or fungi from that ecosystem and cross the fucking ocean with it 9,000 miles away, it can run rampant because none of the checks and balances from that ecosystem are there to prevent it from forming a monoculture. And that plant is just doing what it's evolved to do, trying to survive, and using the adaptations that it's acquired through evolution, both molecular and in its physiology, to do that. But unfortunately, sometimes they just get out of control. Like every tree pathogen that is fucking with our forests in North America is an invasive species. Every single one, except for pine beetles, which are just experiencing, elevated populations due to, climate change not killing them in the winter, higher temperatures not killing them in the winter, and trees having their quote health reduced by lowered precipitation. A tree fights off pine beetles by producing sap. If it's not getting as much winter rain or summer rain, it can't produce as much sap, so the pine beetles are going to have a way out. I mean, if you're just planting shit, if you're planting non-native stuff, there's no problem with that. When you plant things that are invasive or have a high capacity or potential to basically break out, and you see them starting to, you see recruitment of that species, you see seedlings of that species taking off, that's when it's time to worry. I'm kind of experiencing that right now with this. I planted this nightshade from Peru out on the Parkway, and I've noticed little seedlings coming up, and I'm like, oh fuck, it's never been tested outside of Botanic Garden. Like, did I just introduce? I might have to cut the fucking thing down just because I don't want to be pulling the weeds out. So it's, with eucalyptus, there's only really one species that's pretty bad in California, and that's Eucalyptus globulus. But there's 800 species of eucalyptus. Like I planted a species of Eucalyptus regnans, which is, they get fucking 400 feet tall. They grow in Tasmania. Incredible plant, really cool color to the leaves. And I planted one out and it died. I planted it in my friend's yard a couple houses down, and it died because it's where it grows, they get a lot more precipitation. It's like the Pacific Northwest. They just couldn't cut it here. It's not used to this summer heat. So it died.
All right. Well, we've been going for about an hour. So would you want to hang out like for another 30 minutes? It's totally optional. We just
I'll stick around and shoot the shit. Sure.
Okay, cool. Because I got a lot more questions about some stuff. Anyway, so thanks for listening to the Poundcast. If you want to, support us, just join our Patreon, patreon.com/Poundcast. And then you could have access to these extended episodes. And Joey, do you want to, that's your name, right?
My name is actually Bob Johnson. I'd like to clarify.
Well, how could people follow, how do people follow you? How do people know about your stuff? Just plug away your Patreon and everything like that.
All right. Patreon is I think it's just patreon.com/crime pays but botany doesn't. I got an Instagram page. You want to write me an email, either send me angry letters or have a question, because I do enjoy conflict. You can write me at crimepaysbutbotanydoesn't@gmail.com. Plant identification questions, I always love those. If I can't ID something, I'll point you to someone who can. And if then it's just the YouTube page. You want to listen to me run my mouth and showcase botanical oddities and other weird shit I find, it's just the Crime Pays But Botany Doesn't YouTube page.
Cool. And we will put those links in the episode description. See you next week. Peace.
Welcome to the Poundcast. 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 Welcome